Hello guys, it is time for another Q&A video. My eye is still healing, in the last stages of recovery finally. Believe me, I want it to go away a lot more than you do, but if that's just gonna bother you too much, then I guess leave the video now. I am gonna say first that some people ask questions that I've kind of already answered in a Draw My Life video, and I'm gonna link that. I think it'll be over here. A lot of you guys were kind of seeming to ask the same question, which is basically, am I learning Chinese? So obviously I do want to learn some Chinese here. I want to be able to get around. I don't want to feel like I'm just completely lost in translation every time I step out the door in the place that I live. A big part of why we moved to China is that Livio is really trying to study Chinese and become fluent, and he's doing a really good job with that. He's learning every day, really studying. To be honest, I myself am not really devoting that much intense study to it right now, but there is a reason why. Porque al momento yo estoy aprendiendo español. Comencé a aprender por mi autor favorito, Jorge Luis Borges, de Argentina. Conozco muchas palabras y entiendo mucho, pero necesito hablar. Definitivamente necesito hablar mucho más. Also, estudié shi rumuna y limba fuerte frumosa dar y mai difficile. Liviu trebuie sendia mai multe lecții. I have a harder time with Romanian, but I love both languages. I love learning both languages. So yeah, that's the reason that I'm not intensely studying Chinese right now, is because I'm already learning 2 other languages, and I figured that throwing in a third would just really confuse things. Obviously, I do want to learn Chinese, but I just feel like I want to be farther along, not finished, because I don't think you ever finish learning a language, but just farther along with the languages that I am already learning. A user named SNSN asks, hey Jordan, when are you and Poppy going to have your own Patreon account? For those of you guys not familiar, I'm not actually familiar either, but from what I understand, Patreon is a website where people can basically give you money to fund anything, a project preferably. I will just say that I am not going to be starting a Patreon. I know that the question included Poppy. I can't speak for Poppy, but for me, I will not be starting a Patreon or anything like that. I just don't really like the idea of people giving me money, because I do already make a living, and I feel like if I don't know, if I'm having to ask people to pay money for me to go on trips, then maybe I should just not be going on them if I can't afford them. I am capable of paying for my own trips. I am lucky enough to be able to make a living through and while traveling, so yeah, I'm not going to be starting up a Patreon. I just think that there's too much of a gray line, and I don't like that, especially in terms of when financial things are involved. Nothing against people that do have Patreons. I think it's a great tool for connecting viewers, and it's really nice of you guys that you would actually say that you want to donate to my travels. So I do thank you for that, but no Patreon for me. Another question that I really like is from Imran Khan. I hope I said your name right. How many countries in the world have I traveled to? And if I had traveled to all of the countries, what will you do? I have traveled to 22 countries as of right now, I believe. This whole thing of, oh, you're gonna have gone to so many countries and explored so many of them that you won't have anywhere left to travel. First of all, it's a long way off, because I have traveled a lot and I've only been to 22 countries. That's nowhere near any large percentage of all of the countries in the world. There are hundreds of countries. I would love to have traveled to every country in the world, but even if I had, then that would not mean that there's nowhere left to explore. The world is an incredibly vast place, so much so that you will never be able to explore all of the world. No one will ever be able to. Maybe people can visit every country, yes, but that is not the same thing. For me, knowing that the world is such a vast, diverse, beautiful place that can never be explored truly fully is actually inspiring to me, because it makes me feel like there's always going to be something left to explore, another adventure to have. For example, I have been to France, right? But in no way do I now say, well, I've been to France, been there, done that, never going to that place again. I explored the south of France a little bit, and I was in Paris. But I would still love to go back to even those two places, let alone more of France. It would be, I think, impossible to explore all of any one country. And then there are hundreds of countries in the world. Even when I was in Miami, I lived in Miami for 9 years, and I still hadn't seen everything that there was to see in Miami. Sometimes people would tell me about stuff there, touristy stuff that, you know, locals might not do so much, and be like, wow, I should have done that when I lived there. 2-hour drive away from Miami, there's tons of places that I actually would have loved to go and explore, and I just didn't in 9 years. Even if, let's say, you did know a place inside and out, you go somewhere else, you come back in maybe a year, and the place is never going to be exactly the same, because while you're gone, life has gone on in that location or city or town, and now some things are different. You would kind of be different as well, because time would have gone by, you would have seen more things, gained another perspective and more to compare it to, and you'd look at it a little differently. That is why I think that you can never explore all of the world. I just think that's pretty cool. One of my people that I see commenting a lot, Eve Paludan. I know that I'm probably saying your name wrong, but you asked about my writing, and I love that you asked about my writing. Funnily enough, when I started traveling, I felt that I was a writer, so I should start a travel blog. I had never really done videography. I wasn't that familiar with it, or to be honest, very comfortable with it. If you go and look back at my old videos, I am never smiling. I am really avoiding making eye contact with the camera at all costs. I'm just obviously very awkward, and I had no idea what I'm doing. Whereas in writing, I can literally just sit down and write something. I don't want to sound boastful, but to be honest, I'm a very good writer, and it just comes naturally to me. And I think that if I have one talent in life, it's writing. I feel like I'm a writer, and that's what I'm meant to do. For some reason though, I just wanted to do YouTube, and I wanted to do something that challenged me more. However, I am still writing. I'm always writing. I'm currently working on a novel. I'm also writing a encyclopedia right now about the relationships between people, time, and space. And I feel like this ties back into the question of, if you saw every country, where would you go? Because the reason that I'm writing this encyclopedia is to illustrate that the world is a never-ending story, basically. I am someone that's really fascinated by history and culture and people's lives through time. History is just basically a collection of different people's stories, people like you and me. So yeah, that's what I'm working on now. One of my devoted Twitter commenters, Aldo Varelli, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I hope I'm pronouncing everybody's names right. Of all the countries you have lived in, which one is your favorite? And I like this question because it's a little bit specific. People like to ask me really, really broad questions, and I kind of try to avoid those, because how do you answer such things? So if you consider living in a place for at least 1 month, then these are the countries that I have lived in. Obviously, I've lived in the United States, Santorini in Greece, Mexico for almost 4 months, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Dubai for almost a month. I don't know if that one counts. Bali for over 3 months. Here, I've lived in China for 3 months now. So which one's my favorite? I think the runner-ups would be Bali and Greece. I always tell everybody that Greece is one of my favorite countries, just absolutely love it there. And then I was living in Santorini, so that's just incredibly magical place. And then when I lived in Bali, just awesome, insanely gorgeous, insanely cheap. The people are so friendly and welcoming, and the culture is fascinating. I think that my favorite place in terms of living, and that I would love to live again, sometime soon would be actually Mexico. Absolutely loved the vibe there, the atmosphere. Felt like there was just so much more I could have explored, and the people and the language. I think back to that time really often and I miss Mexico, so probably Mexico if I had to choose one. William on Twitter had a plethora of questions for me. Sorry that I can't answer all of them. One of his questions was, who's your favorite YouTube blogger and why? I feel like this is an obvious that a lot of people would probably say, but it is my answer. It would be Casey Neistat. If you don't already watch his videos, then you need to, because they are insanely awesome. He really has a good perspective on life. William also asked, what made you decide to come and stay in China for a whole year? When we first considered moving to China, it just seemed to us to be kind of a very unexpected choice. We didn't have it really in our minds to travel to China, but then once we got the idea, the more that Livio and I thought about it, the more we were just really intrigued. To be honest, over in the US, you hear a lot about China, and I just think that the whole perspective in the media over there in my home country is kind of skewed. It gives you a one-sided picture of the country. When you really try to research what is it like to live in China, then I just didn't feel like there's as much out there as compared to other countries. Like, what's it like to live in France? What's it like to live in, I don't know, somewhere in Asia, in Bali? There's tons and tons of information when I was looking to move there. But then when I was looking for China, it was kind of a different story, and there were a lot of conflicting stories as well that would say completely opposite things. And so we were kind of just never really sure what to believe, what it was really truly going to be like. And I really think that you can't know exactly what it's going to be like living here in China until you get here. And that's the sense that I got even before I came here. And that really intrigued me. And it's such a huge country, and I feel like there's a lot to be explored here. There's so many more questions, but I can't get to them all because this video is going to be too long. The question from this elegantly named individual is, where are you going to travel next? Sydney would be nice since I'm here. My next trip is actually starting tomorrow morning, really early in the morning, so I pretty much have to finish filming this video, edit it and upload it, sleep, and leave. Which is exciting. Super excited about this trip because it is my first time traveling within China. It's also my first time really traveling since I got to China, so that's been a little weird for me, but I've just kind of been trying to settle in here. You know, I got this apartment, just, yeah, living life here. I am taking a trip to Midwestern China. When I looked up this town, there isn't even much information about it on Google. I just love the idea of going to a place that even Google doesn't really know about. As for farther in the future and more trips, I at the moment don't have any planned, but I am very spontaneous, so who knows where I'll be even next week. Definitely going to go to Shanghai as soon as possible. More places within China, more places within Shenzhen, Vietnam. Really want to go to Egypt. Where don't I want to go is the question. As always, I will have votes on Twitter if it's between 3 or 2 countries and I don't know which one to choose and which to travel to, then I'll put it up to a vote and you guys will decide where you want to see me film next. So if you want to get in on the voting on Twitter, go and follow me. Links are in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for your questions, and I will see you next time somewhere else in China. Bye!